What American character of a renowned Western film was the vampire hunter named D meant to emulate? Who was the author of the Vampire Hunter D novel series on which the movie was based on? Who was the actor that was the inspiration for the main villain in Hunter Vampire D? These and more questions about the film Vampire Hunter D will be answered on this episode of Back Look Cinema, the podcast. I have lived in this world for 10,000 years, and yet you lack the capacity to understand what it truly means. When years cease to have meaning, boredom is a mortal foe. It is a war for constant stimulation, and if that means debasing our line with humans, then so be it. And after all, since we took control of their lands, the humans owe us something in exchange for the simple existences our efforts allow them. When you consider that, a human female every 50 years or so is nothing. Hi, my name is Zoe. It's spelled Z to the O or Z to the O for those of you outside of the US. Welcome back, friends. This is the 209th episode of Backlook Cinema, the podcast, where we take a look back at the movies of yesteryear, especially the movies of the latter half of the last millennium. If you like what you're about to hear, then please tell your family, tell your friends, and tell that scantily clad neighbor whose beauty has attracted the attention of a 10,000-year-old vampire about Backlook Cinema. Before we get started, I just wanted to acknowledge this very nice comment I got from the YouTube page, where you can also listen to the podcast audio only. And this comment comes from Mark Crespo-M2C. This comment is in regards to the previous episode, Killian's Classic, comparing three versions of the deadliest game, The Running Man. And they wrote, "Love the episode. Both of The Running Man are incredible. Thanks so much. Heart, heart, smiley face, smiley face." And thank you, Mark Crespo-M2C, for leaving such a very nice comment. I very much appreciate that. And if you want to leave a comment, I will leave the contact information near the end of the episode, or you can find where to contact me in the show notes. When I was younger, I was very much into anime. I used to watch a lot of anime shows that were edited for American audiences like Speed Racer, Transor Z, Gigantor, Battle of the Planets, also known as G-Force, also known as Gatchaman, or Space Battleship Yamato, also known as Star Blazers. While TV anime was a little easy to come by, anime films were almost a mystical science to get a hold of. When I was a kid, it was almost felt like a rumor when someone talked about watching a Japanese animated movie. We didn't have Crunchyroll back then, or any service that was dedicated to showing foreign films the way that Netflix is somewhat dedicated to showing anime. All of this to say that I have no memory of how I came across Vampire Hunter D. I don't remember when I saw it or how. Was it on a VHS or DVD? Did I see it in high school or was I an adult? Was I in Maryland when I saw it or Hawaii? This represents a gigantic gap in my memory, and this gap pretty much accounts for the other films that we'll be talking about for the rest of January. What is certain was that I was fascinated by the animation, the style and the concept of the story. It left quite an impression on me, and some aspects of the story stuck with me for most of my life. So let's dive into this vampire epics. The opening credits for Vampire Hunter D from 1985. In the distant future, the world is overrun by mutants and demons. In a small rural town, a young rancher woman defends her livestock against all manner of nasty supernatural creatures. Little does she know that she's attracted the attention of one of the nastiest creatures that ever lived, a 10,000-year-old vampire of immense power. Naturally, she'll need the assistance dealing with such a thing, and as fate would have it, a very capable person just so happened to show up in her town. A tall, dark, mysterious stranger of few words with exotic weapons and a stoic demeanor. A quiet man who only identifies himself as D. This film, Vampire Hunter D, was released in 1985 in Japan. It was released on March 26, 1993 in the US. It was produced by Ashida Productions Company, CBS Sony Group, and Epic/Sony. I was unable to find any reliable data on the budget or the theatrical grosses. All the information I found were either unrealistic or unreliable. So for that, it will remain a mystery for all of us. Also, the cast list for this movie is very complex. It has 3 sets of cast members. It has the original actors from the Japanese dub, obviously. And then there is the English dub from the original transfer to English in 1993 when the film reached America in 1993. And then in 2015, it was redubbed by a different set of actors. And I am unsure which version that I watched when I watched this movie just recently. It was probably the 2015 remaster. I'm not at all certain. I couldn't find any information on the version that I had watched. However, what I'll do is that since I first saw this film around the time it was first released in America, so I first saw it in probably 1993 or somewhere about that time, I will use the English dub cast list from 1993 to talk about who was starring in this movie. So we will start off with Michael McConnohie, and he played D and also Left Hand. You may have heard this voice in Resident Evil Degeneration, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1990, and you can catch that episode I did with Jeff Moccalino from the Jeff Moccalino podcast. He was also in Tales of Frankenstein and lots of video games and anime and animation and things of that sort. He is a voiced actor through and through, and he's been in many projects that require his voice. And that's going to be true for basically all of the actors that are on this list. Up next is Barbara Goodson. She played Doris Lang, and you might have heard her voice on the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from 1995, Akira, or Verona's Fantastic Tale. Jeff Winkless played Count Magnus Lee, and his voice has been on Look Who's Talking Now, Castle in the Sky, and Wicked City. Edie Meerman played Lamika Lee. Her voice has been lent to Tron Legacy, Epic, and Lupin III, the Castle of Cagliostro. Kerrigan Mahan played Ray Jinsai, and his voice has also been heard on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers from 1995 and Dr. Dolittle from 1998 and a movie called Angels in Stardust. Steve Kramer played Dr. Sam Fering, or in the original Japanese dub, his name is Dr. Sam Ferrigno. I don't know why there was a name change. Steve Kramer has been in Promare and Redline. Steve Boulin played Greco-Roman It's a person named Greco-Roman in this in this movie. He's also been in Ghost in the Shell and Shaolin Soccer. Joyce Kurtz played the three sisters, also known as the Snake Women of Midwich, and his voice has been used in Son of the Mask and Silent Mobius. So I'm familiar with some of these films. I'm familiar with Son of the Mask. I didn't watch it. I'm just familiar with. I'm just familiar with it. And I'm familiar with Ghost in the Shell. And obviously I know about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of people listening are fans of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So you might know that I mentioned Barbara Goodson was in that. Well, she was in the film and the TV show. She's actually the voice of Rita Repulsa. And Kerrigan Mahan was the voice of, what's it, Gold Star? Goldie? Goldman? The gold thing. The gold monster with the wings. I can't remember his name right now. And I know you're screaming the name of this creature at me right now as you're listening. But, yeah, he played Goldie or Gold Star or Goldman, whatever his name is. Anyway, so you know the work of some of these people. This film was directed by Toyoo Ashida, and he's mainly known for a property that is, I'm familiar with it, but I've never seen it. I just saw a lot of it, right? So I've seen the books of it. I've seen the DVDs of it. I never watched DVDs. I never read the books. I never read the manga, but they seem to be all over the place. Like whenever I go to a bookstore, they have hundreds of these books from this series. And the series I speak of is called Fist of the North Star. And the director, Ashida, he directed 6 movies in the Fist of the North Star anime series. And I believe there's even a live action version. So this suggests to me that Fist of the North Star is a very renowned property that is beloved by many people, because I see Fist of the North Star all over the place. This movie was written by Hideyuki Kikuchi and Yasasi Harino. Hideyuki Kikuchi was the writer of the Vampire Hunter D novels. The original title of the novel is Gyuketsuki Hanta D. The stories were influenced by the Hammer horror film collection of Dracula movies starring Christopher Lee as Dracula. And it's using this series as the basis for storytelling rather than the original Dracula novel written by Bram Stoker or the classic Universal Pictures collection of vampire films that began with Dracula in 1931. The books were illustrated by Yoshitake Amano since 1983. Vampire Hunter D has proven to be a very successful novel series. There are 56 novels in this series. They sold over 17 million copies worldwide. Vampire Hunter D has been adapted to an audio drama, a manga series, comic books, and a video game. Yasuse Harino has written not a whole lot of movies. He's mainly concerned with TV shows. Some movies he's written are Dio McCard, the movie, The Tiny Sore Island, a movie called So What, a movie called Orotoraman Sotori, or Ultraman. And he's done some popular TV series such as Metal Fighter Miku, Dragon Ball, The Ultraman, and Ultraman 80. The music was composed by Tetsuya Komuro, and some of the movies that he composed for are Bowlbur in Love, Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, and Heaven and Earth. And a lot of his composition can be found on TV shows. That's it for the opening credits. And as far as announcements is concerned, just the same old stuff. Please check out backlookcinema.com/shop and check out some of the things that you can pick up at the store. I know I promised some new designs. I hadn't gotten around to it yet, but there will be. I promise. And now let's take a look at some of our favorite parts. So, thinking about the themes of this movie, I noticed that there are very strong themes about identity. So, for example, you have the main character, D, and it's almost like he has a dual identity, or there are aspects of his identity that he's trying to keep hidden that kind of it becomes exposed during the movie. And there's a reason that he acts the way he acts. Like, he's very quiet and he's kind of standoffish. He's trying to keep other people at a distance. He's doesn't want to, it's not like he doesn't want to care, but he doesn't want to get close to people. And that is the type of like hero that he is. And like I said, he's trying to keep his personal business close to the vest. He doesn't want to reveal too much about his own identity. And then you have the main villain, Count Magnus Lee, and he is powerful and he's also arrogant. And his identity is basically his family, but it's not that he takes this identity too seriously. It's more like, because he is as powerful as he is, he kind of takes his identity for granted. And then his daughter is very similar in that regard, except she's more of a fanatic. She's a fanatic about her station. So Count Magnus Lee is a noble, and that makes his daughter, Lamika Lee, also a noble, but she considers her nobility her entire identity. Like, she considers herself above everyone else. Everyone who's around her is beneath her. And she lives for that. That is who she is. And that's what she expects her father to be. And so she's very militant about her identity, and she will protect it at all costs. And she will impose it on others that she sees is beneath her. And at the same time, later in the film, when she finds out the truth about her identity, she finds out she isn't who she thought she was her entire life. It basically shatters her, it crushes her. And so I think one of the themes of this movie, or probably even the main theme, would be that you shouldn't allow your identity to be everything. Or at the very least, the class that you were born into shouldn't be your entire identity. And I think that might be extended to your whatever group that you were born into, or your station, or your race, or your country, or your maybe even your ethnic background. That these things should not be your entire identity. And I think that the movie is expressing in a roundabout way that people should have a little bit of more of an open mind about a person's identity. I guess what I'm trying to say. Like, for example, one of the characters is ostracized because they think that she might turn into a vampire. So they want to lock her up in a dungeon. And the town, like the mayor wants to lock her up in a dungeon. And then the doctor and D is trying to tell the mayor that that's a bad idea, and they discourage him from taking such a rash act. And it's all because of the identity that they think that this woman is. They think that she might turn into a vampire, not that she was a vampire. So I think what this film is trying to say, or one of the messages in this film, is that the group or the class that you were born into shouldn't be the end all and be all of who you think you are as a person. Another thing that should be addressed, since we're dealing with anime, is fan service. So if you're not familiar, fan service is subtle or gratuitous sexual imagery that you will find in a lot of anime, especially anime that's aimed at either young adults or full adults. It's mostly, I feel like a lot of anime is created and developed by a bunch of horny guys. So, and you'll see it in, it's not just anime, but in a lot of Japanese media. So the fan service would be like scantily clad women or women with gigantic breasts that are bouncing around, women dressed as schoolgirl uniforms, lots of, well, maybe not a lot of nudity, but certainly nudity, especially unnecessary nudity that's almost imposed upon the viewer. And this is all referred to as fan service. I think the concept is that, that their fans are mostly young boys. So they want to give something that the young boys can look at. I think that's the concept of why they call it fan service. And so in this movie, it's no different. So you have the main female protagonist. And when you first see her, she's wearing a skirt that's so small that you're constantly catching glimpses of her panties that's underneath her skirt. Then it's also torn in such a way to make sure that you see glimpses of her panties. And that's the beginning of the fan service, almost like teasing the viewer that there's more to come after this. And then there are some nudity with some of the characters, including this particular character with the panties showing almost all of the time. And it's a way that this character being Doris Lang, is swooning over Hunter Vampire D. She's swooning over him. As a matter of fact, when she first meets him, she offers her body in exchange for his services as a vampire hunter. So all of that falls under fan service. It's in a lot of, like I said, it's in a lot of Japanese media. It's in the video games. I haven't seen a lot of like live action movies, but I'm sure it's in a lot of live action movies. I've only really noticed it in video games and anime. A lot of these fan service elements, they can be uncomfortable to look at, especially after you're grown. It's like, this nudity didn't need to be here. It feels unnecessary. It's because it's so overt and obvious what they're doing in these movies. But that's one of the things that you kind of have to contend with when you watch anime, especially earlier anime, like anime that comes out in the 80s and 90s. There's a lot, and I'm talking specifically about anime that's aimed at adults. There's a lot of this in adult-oriented anime. And when I say aimed at adults, I don't mean like adult films. I'm talking about like what we would call R-rated movies. Rewatching this film so many years later, I mean, I hadn't watched this film in decades. So watching it again now, I found that I really enjoyed it. And what I realize now, what I don't think I realized before, is that this story is very complex. Like there are a lot of moving parts in this story. It is a very plot-driven story. It's almost convoluted. It introduces a lot of elements. Some of the elements don't even really make sense, or at least they're not explained. And I think all of this left an impression on me. I already like vampire movies in particular. Like I don't go for all horror movies, or maybe I'm particularly repulsed by like slasher movies. I think that I'm kind of over slasher movies, but I do like particularly vampire movies and zombie movies. And I guess to some extent werewolf movies. So this is a vampire movie, and I am predisposed to enjoying it. And watching again, I found that I really enjoyed it. So some of the things I really liked about it was they're using the mysterious stranger trope. And I think that it is very well employed in this movie. So D is the mysterious stranger. I mean, just the fact that he's just going by the letter D is mysterious enough. We don't ever get a sense of what his real name is. It almost nothing is revealed about this character. The audience finds out about stuff about this character that the rest of the characters in the movie never find out about. Like specifically his left hand. His left hand has a face on it, and it has powers that are actually separate from D himself. So when D gets hurt, then his left hand will reach out and start eating dirt or sucking in the wind and using that substance to heal D and heal himself. The hand talks to D. It's needling D. And like I mentioned earlier. So I think that was the thing that left the biggest impression on me was it's this character that's in D's hand. The hand has a face on it. It's on the palm. So it's this hand creature or character that is basically acting as D's Alfred. Like Batman has Alfred. D has this left hand that is constantly, except the left hand is more of a smart aleck than Alfred is to Batman. But that left a huge impression on me. It's so weird and creative to have something like that in a story. I had never seen anything like that before, and I think that's why it left such an impression on me. Another thing that I really liked about this movie was the stylized action in it. I had probably seen, I'm pretty sure I've seen a lot of anime before. Like I've seen anime in like television, but I had never seen anime in a movie before. I think this is probably my first anime, and the stylized action in it was very incredible. That's a weird way of saying it, but the action was delightful, and the characters had all of these weird, strange weapons. Like Doris has this whip, and it's kind of like a laser whip, but the laser whip can kind of transform into a cat of nine tails and wrap itself around the victims or whatever. And it was just the way that she employed it and the way it's used in action. It was just fantastic. A lot of the action scenes were fantastic. There's a part where she gets attacked by the werewolf and she dispatches the werewolf. All of these things are great. D himself fights all manner of mutants. He's fighting weird creatures. He's fighting giants with his incredibly long sword. It's just the art of fighting that I really enjoyed about this movie. Also, you have the setting of the town and the castle. The castle in particular, the castle is just so weird and strange. It's just the most crazy looking castle that you can imagine. And this is where Count Magnus Lee stays at. And D goes directly to this castle, and it's enormous. The scale is bananas. And he goes into the castle, and there's all manner of creatures and mutants and demons inside the castle, and he's fighting all of these. And it's just a scale that is impressive, and it complements the action and the fantasy in magnificent ways. That's also something that left quite an impression on me. watching this movie, I could tell that it was inspired by Westerns. And as I looked at it, I was really thinking of Clint Eastwood. The characters that he played, where he's playing that quiet Western drifter in a spaghetti Western. This movie looks kind of like a sci-fi spaghetti Western, where instead of a man with no name with a 6-shooter, you have a man with no name with a really long sword. And this man also happens to be extremely tall and walks around with long hair and his long, enormous, fantastical cloak. The cloak itself having superpowers. It almost acts like the cape in Doctor Strange. It's not fully sentient, but there's a particular part in the movie where the cape attempts to save Dee's life and fails, but still, this just adds to the fantastical elements that I loved about the movie. I mentioned that this story was complex and convoluted, so there's a lot of kidnapping back and forth, and there's a lot of betrayal. So, of course, when you're dealing with a vampire movie, I'm beginning to understand the trope of the person that you think is going to be your ally, and then they turn out to have been turned by the vampire. So this trope is employed where you have the kind old man that prevented Doris from being sent to the bad jail where they were going to send her because they found out that she got bit by a vampire and they thought she was going to turn. So you had this kind old man that argued against putting her in this weird jail that they have. This same doctor is trying to take Doris to a safe place because the vampire's after him. He's like, come with me. I'm going to take you to a safer place where the vampire can't get you. And then along the way, they're confronted by Ray Jinsei and Lamika Lee, the mutant and the main vampire's daughter. And then the doctor turns on Doris because he's been turned to a vampire. So they're all after her. And then later on, she's rescued. There's a lot of going on, a lot of kidnapping back and forth, a lot of rescuing back and forth. There is a point in the movie where Dee and Doris are alone. Doris wants Dee to run away with her for him to take her away. She's like basically falling in love with Dee, and she wants to run away with Dee, and she's throwing herself at Dee, but Dee is doing everything he can to keep his distance from her because you can see the vampire in him is coming out. Dee is half a vampire, and like his fangs start to grow. He just wants to eat her, and she doesn't understand that he's resisting being with her. And that's the reason why he keeps his distance from other people, because if he can keep his distance, if he can keep his emotions under control, he can keep his hunger under control, then he won't totally vamp out. And this is the secret that he's trying to keep from people. He doesn't want people to know that he's a vampire, that he's half vampire and half human. But essentially he is able to fend off Doris, and he's able to maintain control of his urges, and he doesn't eat her. So that's a good thing, I think. The whole movie is predicated on Count Magnus Lee. That's the main vampire. That's the 10,000-year-old vampire pursuing Doris. For whatever reason, he's infatuated with Doris Lang, and he wants Doris to be his next bride. And the first night that they meet, like at the very beginning of the film, he attacks her, he bites her, and that's why later on the villagers, they trying to put her in the bad jail because they found that she was bitten by Magnus Lee. They think that if they put her in a jail, then I guess the vampire won't bother them or whatever. I'm not exactly sure why. But then the other villager says, if we try to hide her away, then the vampire will destroy our town. This is a similar event happened 50 years earlier. Dee is there and this doctor is there, and Dee and the doctor are saying, yeah, let's not do that. Let me handle the vampire and I will destroy this vampire. Even though that this vampire is impressively powerful. During the course of the film, Lamika is very much opposed to her father taking on a human as his wife. She's complaining about it. She's saying, Father, don't do this. We can't allow a human to taint our bloodline. This is inappropriate. It's improper. It's beneath us. We can't allow this to happen. I don't even think the daughter is even 50 years old, because Magnus tells her that, well, you shouldn't complain about being a pureblood because you yourself are not a pureblood, because your mother was a human. And so the most previous human that he had been with was 50 years previous. So Lamika is probably around 50 years old, even though she looks like she's 19. I mentioned earlier that Lamika is all about being a noble. That's her entire identity. Anybody who's not a noble is beneath her, and really, she really looks down on anybody who's not a noble. And the only person that she really respects is her father, because he's the only other noble around. And so her father tells her that she's not even a pureblood, that she's half human. She herself is a Dhampir. And this shatters her. Like, at first she accuses her father of lying, and her father tells her, no, he's not lying. She's only half a vampire. And her entire identity was being a vampire, being a full-blooded vampire, being a noble, being above everything. And now that was her entire identity. And now her whole world is shattered. And now she really don't know what to do. It's like she still intends to interfere with the marriage. And then Magnus uses his telekinesis to keep her in a place. Like, he traps her in a room to keep her from interfering with the marriage. Through all of these cross kidnappings, he finally gets Doris, and he puts her in a trance, and he basically sets it up so that they're about to get married. And Dee interrupts the wedding, and then that leads to a fight. Because Magnus is very old, he's very powerful, and at first he starts to basically toss Dee around with just his mind, just his telekinetics. But it turns out that Dee is even more powerful than Magnus has suspected. And Dee is able to overcome the power that Magnus possesses. He's able to kill Magnus. And during the fight where he's overpowering Magnus, it's suggested that Dee is actually the direct offspring of the person that they refer to as the sacred ancestor. And they also allude that the sacred ancestor is Count Dracula himself. So the suggestion is that Dee is not just a Dhampir, but he's like the original Dhampir. He's like, he may be the very first Dhampir. These are all suggestions. These are not like strongly confirmed concepts. They're just suggesting that's who he is. But he is powerful. Like, he's more powerful, even though he's only half a vampire. He's still powerful enough to destroy Magnus. And when he destroys Magnus, the castle comes crumbling down, and Doris has a chance to be saved, to continue to live. And I think Dee even tries to get her to save herself, or he tries to rescue her as well as rescue Doris. But Lamika chooses to die with the castle, to die with her father. Now, I'm not exactly sure if a castle can crush a vampire to death, but that's what she intends to go down with, the castle, because her whole world has been basically it's been a lie. As far from her perspective, her entire life has been a lie. Her entire identity is shattered, and she's essentially committing suicide because she can't live with the fact that she is what she always hated. Like, she is the thing that she looked down on her entire life. So in the end, Doris is rescued. Magnus is destroyed. Lamika is destroyed. The castle is destroyed, so all of the mutants are destroyed. And I guess a number of the demons and the other monsters have basically been vanquished. And just like in Spaghetti Western, the mysterious stranger leaves the town, and like the two people or the people that he helped, they're all like, goodbye, Dee, we love you, and so on and so forth. So I really enjoyed this movie. Like, once again, it's like I found it hard to take notes. I took copious amount of notes, and expressing the things that I liked about this movie, I kind of left most of those notes out. I'm probably going to watch it again without having to take notes, because obviously taking notes during the watching of a film can be very distracting. If you've seen Vampire Hunter D, let me know what you think. Let me know if you remember this film. Let me know if you've seen the sequel, Vampire Hunter D Bloodlines. I definitely want to watch that one too. It looks even slicker than the original, and I'm eager to see what that looks like. I've never read the novels. I never read the manga, and maybe I should check those out too. But that's it for our favorite parts. And now let's check out the trivia. We have the top 10 trivia, which was very hard to come by. It was scant information on this movie. I got some of it from IMDb and some of it from other sources. So to start us off, the character Count Magnus Lee is named as an homage to Christopher Lee, who played Dracula in the long series of Hammer films. Interestingly, I've never seen any of these Hammer films. I'm a little bit familiar with Christopher Lee playing Count Dracula, but barely. But it's interesting that that was the inspiration for this character. The film takes place in 12,090. And so just a little ways off, just a couple years down the road where this story takes place. And it's nice to see that they've kept up the Christian calendar. The sword Dee carries is a Gros Messer, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's German for great knife. And it is a great knife. Like I mentioned earlier, that this is a long sword. This is a very long sword. The original author, Kikuchi, disliked the film, although he acknowledged the sales of the light novels went through the roof after it was released. So yeah, it was a very influential film. It was a very positive outcome for the book sales and the continuation of the books. Thankfully averted. The movie was originally released in the US by Streamline Pictures. It then bounced to Orion Pictures and Urban Vision, who also licensed Bloodlust in succession. The movie fell into licensing limbo after Urban Vision shut down, but Sentai Filmworks saved it. When Sentai Filmworks rescued the license in 2015, it announced a brand new English dub for the re-release. The company didn't say why it chose not to include the streamlined dub, but it was possible rights issues were involved. So I did say that I had included the credits or the actors from the 1993 dub, and the 1993 dub is the Streamline Pictures dub. That is the version that I watched, so that's why I used those voice actors. In an interview with Monster Complex, Kikuchi said that D was heavily influenced by Shane, a renowned character in the famous American Western film of the same name. So Shane was the actual inspiration for the character and characterization of D. Although when I never seen Shane, but I'm more familiar with Clint Eastwood. In the same Monster Complex interview, Kikuchi said that D was his image of the perfect man, very tall, otherworldly handsome, and very appealing to female readers. He claimed that Hunter Vampire D has more female fans than male. So that's interesting. I think that when creators are envisioning their hero character, they're often trying to imagine what their perfect man would look like. Also from the Monster Complex interview, it is revealed that Yoshitaka Amano is solely responsible for how D looks. The design of his cloak, his hairstyle, his great hat. He said that they, the writers, usually just gave him the story or the script and pretty much left the design up to his imagination. The last bit of trivia, there's an updated anime called Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust, a film that came out in 2000, which made gathering information on the 1985 film difficult because whenever I search for the earlier film, Bloodlust would pop up. Try it. Try typing in Vampire Hunter D, and whenever you type in that in the search bar, sometimes you'll get Vampire Hunter D, the 1985 version, and sometimes you get the novel, but a lot of times Bloodlust will pop up. It's like it autofills, like it's always popping in there. It's like when you type in Vampire Hunter D, the computer will say, "Do you mean Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust?" And you have to sort through that. So that's it for the trivia. Let's see what the critics thought. The critics have it at 80% on Rotten Tomatoes. The audience has it at 78%. And IMDb Reviews has it at 7.0 out of 10. So a very well-renowned movie. Although this movie was well-reviewed, there's not a lot of reviews written about it. This was also a very difficult portion of the show to write, but I found some reviews. So we'll start with Dan Casey from The Nerdist. He wrote, "This is the deed that your body craves. This is the deed that takes place in a far-flung post-nuclear hellscape where vampires, werewolves, and all manner of things go bump in the night, reign supreme." While I tentatively agree with him, I don't like the way that this was worded. And I'm not 100% sure if he's talking about this movie or Bloodlust. But yeah, this is the deed that your body craves. I don't like the way that's worded. I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. Ken Hawk from Mountain Express, Asheville, North Carolina wrote, "More tedious and ugly anime." The thing about, I've written reviews, or I've selected reviews from Ken Hank before. It's Ken Hank, not Ken Hawk. But I've looked at Mountain Express, and I feel like this guy doesn't like movies. It's weird. They chose a guy who doesn't like movies to be their movie reviewer. Mark Savloff from the Austin Chronicle wrote, "Above all, it's a very gothic piece of work. Long, sullen shots of decrepit manors and foggy moors make this one of the most atypical and interesting animated films to hit Austin in a long while." And I don't know what the film scene in Austin looks like or what it looked like when this review was written. But yeah, it's definitely a moody film. An uncredited staff from TV Guide wrote, "This mishmash of genres offers little." And I disagree, but that's what they wrote. Finally, Vampire Hunter D is, as of this recording, available on AMC+. On the next episode, we'll take a look at another anime classic. This story has also been adapted to different forms, both famous and infamous. Of course, I'm talking about Ghost in the Shell. So join me next time for that fascinating movie. You can follow us on Blue Sky, Threads, TikTok, Instagram, and sometimes Twitter. Please contact us with any questions, comments, or suggestions at fanmail@backlickcinema.com. Please rate and review on your favorite podcast app. And if you're listening on YouTube, please like or subscribe or leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. One last time, if you like this show, then please help us grow by spreading the word about Backlick Cinema, the podcast. Believe me, it matters. I've been Zoe Richardson. Be safe, share a movie from yesterday with your family, hug your loved ones, and if you're going to be anything, be outstanding.